You've already heard a lot about the background to macular degeneration, the treatments we have now, and it's been an exciting time because, as Dr. Kaiser mentioned, there's been tremendous progress over the past 10 years. And we're not done yet, because Dr. Kaiser also alluded to, and Dr. Brucker mentioned, that there are some limitations to what these treatments can accomplish. First, they can't necessarily improve vision to great degrees in many patients. Two, it requires frequent trips to the doctor's office, frequent treatments, testing, and these go on indefinitely for most patients. So it doesn't cure the condition. It controls it for many people relatively well, but people still sometimes lose vision, and treatments do go on more or less indefinitely. So the status quo is treatments on a relatively frequent basis with Avastin or Lucentis injections. But what does the future hold? Well, many of us are involved in clinical research, and I'll tell you already, the future is bright, and I still believe there'll be a lot of progress in the very near future. So within the next maybe 5 to 10 years, what can we expect? What's on the horizon? Well, I can tell you right now in the pipeline, there's several different things that are happening that could improve outcomes, the way we treat, make things more convenient, possibly even obtain better control of the disease, more or less a cure in the sense that we hope there's a time where we do treatments and can eventually stop and have the disease permanently stabilized. So right now we have these two very good medicines, but there's another medicine that blocks that growth factor Dr. Kaiser mentioned, VEGF. There's another VEGF blocker in production now that's being tested, and within the next year we'll know how well this works. There's the possibility it might work a little better than Lucentis or Avastin. There's also the possibility that it may last longer. It has a longer duration of action, and the trial that is now being conducted will tell us whether or not it has any advantages over the current two medicines we tend to use. So stay tuned on that. That's called the VEGF trap drug. Another way to help make the situation for treatment better is to take what we have now, which works pretty good, but instead of getting frequent injections, put the medicine in a sustained release, long-acting, implantable platform. So in other words, there's technology that's being developed right now that can place a drug within a slow-release device that can also be injected in the eye. And there are those types of technologies available. And in fact, there are a couple of medicines right now, and it's mainly in the form of steroids that can be delivered for longer duration of action. In fact, there's a steroid that is probably going to hit the market within the next year or two that's injected in the eye in a little pellet that can release steroid over 2 to 3 years. Now, we don't know at this time if we can put these antibodies, Avastin or Lucentis, in such a pellet, but there is that research happening right now. So we hope that, although we know there still will be medicines that have to be injected in the eye, we're hoping that they don't have to be injected quite as frequently. So longer duration action drugs are on the horizon. So that's a second significant development. We're going to hear more about that within the next 2 to 5 year time frame. Another way we can potentially make treating this condition more effective is starting to combine different therapies. Right now, it's all about whether it's Avastin or Lucentis injections. But we've been saying now for years, just like our oncology colleagues, our infectious disease colleagues, where they combine different treatments of different mechanisms of action to get a better effect, to effect a cure even, such as with cancers, combining drugs or different types of treatments might afford better vision outcomes, more control or better control, and even curing the wet form of macular degeneration. So there are different drugs being developed that target or inhibit other growth factors other than VEGF. VEGF blockade is now and definitely still going to be in the future. We're going to be using VEGF blockers for a while, but there are other growth factors that can potentially be blocked by antibodies and other types of binders. And combining them, and there are trials right now combining different drugs of different mechanisms of action. And stay tuned for that too, because that's also something we'll hear more about, and again, about a 2 to 5 year time frame. And it's not just drugs. There's other types of treatments. In the past, we tried surgical approaches, but surgical approaches didn't work well. But a surgical approach and an office-based approach of delivering radiation may also be a way we're going to treat macular degeneration in the near future. There's a couple of new radiation delivery devices. One requires going to the OR, the other one is an office-based radiation delivery system. Different than radiation that you may have heard about to treat cancers, because it's very focal, very targeted to the macula, with very little to no exposure to the rest of the body of radiation. And radiation and anti-VEGF work very well together. In fact, that's used in cancer all the time. So we're going to use it in the eye, and it's highly likely there'll be radiation delivery systems available, again, in the near future that might help us control wet macular degeneration better. Now, I haven't talked or mentioned much about the far future. The far future, we also think there are things coming, and you may have heard about stem cells and gene therapy. Well, I put that on the horizon just beyond 5 years or so. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because it's really at a very, very early level of research right now and hasn't even hit testing in humans to any significant degree. So in a nutshell, we have some good treatments now. We've made some tremendous progress in the past decade. I think there'll be significant progress within the next 5 to 8 years. And I think the way we treat AMD, wet macular degeneration now, is going to be different in just 3 to 5 years from now. Thank you very much.